Tonight is an uncommon gathering of two New Zealand communities, of Maori and Chinese coming together to celebrate a book on their shared history in Aotearoa. The night opened with words from Sir Paul Reeves, read to the audience by Robert Nola of the Auckland University Press.
Let us not fool ourselves. Some Chinese may view Maori as savages, and some Maori may view Chinese as interlopers. But this book suggests a much more nuanced approach where there are subtleties and discoveries to be made.
The Dragon and the Taniwha examines the relationship between New Zealand's indigenous people and the country's oldest immigrant minority. It was edited by Professor Man Ying Yip and co-written by 12 scholars of Maori and Asian studies.
Experiences change depending on which generation you come from. So I think the book represents, as a person who introduced the book, represents a really nice spread of the generations throughout New Zealand's history.
I think just to be able to think that, oh, well, these relationships do exist and they're not always necessarily very simple and there's a lot of complexities involved.
The book takes a hard look at how media from the past to the present continues to mold the relationship and the perception both communities have of each other.
Many Chinese people, especially if they are new immigrants, might not be fluent in English, and at least they are more, many of them are more at ease in reading Chinese text or listening to Chinese radio. So how those Chinese media portray Maori issues is going to be quite important on the formation of their ideas of what Maori is like.
Sally Liangni Liu, author of the chapter on Chinese media, was concerned about some new migrants' perception of Maori.
Many of them just view the Maori negatively. So I ask them how and why. Why do you have such a negative view towards Maori? And many of them just told me, I saw the papers.
Sally discovered the problem lies in how Chinese media came up with their stories on Maori and Maori-related issues.
The mainstream media often don't represent Maori issues very well, and the Chinese newspapers just copy that. And on top of that, the Chinese newspaper, the journalists, many of them were not trained as journalists per se. I mean, the Chinese people running Chinese newspapers are new migrants themselves, and they don't know much about New Zealand at all. They don't know about New Zealand history. They are not very au fait with Maori issues, and they just try to translate it and to introduce it to their readers. So that is bound to be quite inadequate.
But the problem doesn't end there. Professor Paul Spoonley of Massey University School of Social and Cultural Studies says mainstream media, as the major source of news for the Maori audience, does little to better relations between the Maori and the Chinese. He uses Peter Lowe as an example.
I think that the media coverage of Peter was symptomatic of how the media cover many people in the Chinese community. It's almost like they're a caricature, that they've got somebody who's fits certain stereotypes and they play to those stereotypes. The media doesn't have people who are skilled in talking to the Chinese community. They don't speak the language, they don't have contacts. So when they tend to have to cover a story in what is quite a short time period of preparation, they often don't talk to the members of the community that they should do. So we need much more experienced journalists, and we probably need journalists from the communities concerned.
They believe Maori and Chinese media need to break away from the mainstream to get closer to the truth, and little changes are taking place.
We have already seen the progress from the Chinese media. And now, I would say that now the Chinese media, when they report some controversial issue, they tend to balance one side view and another side view. We can see the progress.
Increasingly, we have been looking at what the advent of blog sites, of web pages, where people don't have a lot of money and don't have a lot of power, can influence the talk, can influence the stream of discourse.
Hopes are pinned on future generations to build a more harmonious relationship between Maori and Chinese in New Zealand.
I think the younger generation, their mind is more is more open, and they are open to absorb all the views from, for example, the Chinese younger generation, to absorb all the views from the Chinese part, the mainstream part, and the Maori part.
Okay, yes.
And I feel that, well, Maori young people, Chinese young people in New Zealand should grow up to be thinking New Zealanders, and together they can forge a new New Zealand identity where everybody can share.
The Dragon and the Taniwha is available at leading bookstores and the Auckland University Press.